Psalm 86, a prayer of David. Incline your ear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my life, for I am godly. Save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for to you do I cry all the day. Gladden the soul of your servant, for to you, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. For you, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call upon you. Give ear, O Lord, to my prayer. Listen to my plea for grace. In the day of my trouble, I call upon you, for you answer me. There is none like you among the gods, O Lord, nor are there any works like yours. All nations you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and shall glorify your name, for you do great and wondrous things. For you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. Teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name. I will give thanks to you, O Lord my God, with my whole heart, and I will glorify your name forever. For great is your steadfast love toward me. You have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol. O God, insolent men have risen up against me. A band of ruthless men seek my life, and they do not set you before them. But you, O Lord, are a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. Turn to me and be gracious to me. Give your strength to your servant, and save the son of your maidservant. Show me a sign of your favor, that those who hate me may see and be put to shame, because you, Lord, have helped me and comforted me. This is a psalm of David, one that he is begging the Lord to be kind to him, to care for him, to rescue him. Ostensibly in verse 14, insolent men have risen up against him, and they seek his life. But the interesting part about this is that, yes, he's pleading for God to save him, to be gracious to him, to gladden his soul. And there's lots that we can absolutely see. Yes, Lord, please save me. Allow me to rejoice. Restore the joy of my salvation. But right here, tucked in the middle of this particular psalm, which oftentimes in the Psalms is almost like the payload. You see in the middle here in verses 8 through 12, he says, there is none like you, O Lord. He begins to extol God. His eyes are lifted from his own circumstance, and he is staring straight at God. And he says he does great and wondrous things, that all the nations you have made shall come and worship before you. God is indeed worthy of our worship. And oftentimes when we're pleading to God, God doesn't necessarily come at us and give us this comfort. I'm reminded of Job, when Job was certainly in need of comfort because his 3 friends weren't helping him at all. And you would think that God would come to Job and give him comfort. And instead, God gives Job a vision of his holiness and his greatness. I don't know where you find yourself today or this week, but sometimes when we're struggling, where we're struggling with sin, or whether we're struggling with life situations, sickness, illness, over long-standing health problems, I don't know what your particular struggle might be. Maybe it's finances. Maybe you're seeing the world's economy going south and you just don't know what to do. What I find interesting is God doesn't say, look at your circumstances. He says, look at me. Look at who I am. Look at what I have done. David says, there are no one like among you of the gods. Right? Probably the gods of the ancient Middle East, they were probably demons that were just fooling people. But the whole idea is that there's nothing, God is nothing like them. Even the demons are created beings. Even the angels are created beings. We would see an angel, we probably would be tempted to worship, at least the Apostle John was, because he fell down at an angel's feet. Now, granted, the angel freaked out and said, stop. But here, God is saying, look at me. David is saying, there's no one like you. And all the nations, ultimately, and we would hope and invite all the nations to worship before the God of this world, the God of the universe, and that they shall, and we hope that they will do so willingly, will glorify his name. So after seeing this great vision of who God is, even in the midst of his struggles, then he exclaims this. He says, teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. And then he says this. He says, unite my heart to fear your name. For a long time in my own personal disciplines, I struggled with a very divided mind. Oftentimes I get distracted very easily. It's quite possible, maybe due to ADHD or whatever, but I remember struggling with this in a particularly stressful point in my life. And I remember a good dear friend pointing me to this psalm saying, just pray this, that God would unite your heart and unite your mind to fear him. Understand how big and how amazing he is. And then the right response is teach me. Grow me. I want to follow you. Unite my heart to fear your name. I give thanks to you, O Lord my God, with all my heart, and I will glorify your name forever. That's the right response. Even in the midst of our difficult circumstances, which are difficult. David is not, this isn't symbology here. He's saying insolent men have come up against him, and yet he says, teach me your way. He doesn't say break their arms. Now, at the points he may say, defend me. But his first inclination is to say, teach me your way. And then he invokes this same idea twice about God. For great is your steadfast love towards me. And then later, after he talks about these insolent men, he says, you, O God, are merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. That's a direct callback to when God came before Moses and he allowed his presence to pass. He hid Moses in the cleft of the rock, and he came before him, and he said his very name, the Lord, gracious, good, merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, and yet will not relent in bringing judgment upon the wrongdoer, even to the fourth and the fifth generation. This God is both merciful, highly merciful and kind, and yet completely just. The only way that makes any sense, that God is both ultimately gracious and that God is ultimately merciful, and yet here we have even David, who we know wasn't perfect. And he even says, I am your servant, you are my God. He didn't always act like it. Was because he was ultimately just by taking our sin and placing it on the cross. What gives us hope even in the midst of all this is that the God of this universe has already called us his own. He has already said, I will be gracious and merciful. And he has done so through the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross. Now, David obviously is looking forward to a God who is merciful. He didn't necessarily know the name of God the Son or how that was all going to work out, but he was looking forward to that grace and that mercy. And here he's asking for immediate graciousness. Turn and be gracious to me and give your strength to your servant. He may not necessarily be asking for physical deliverance. He may be asking for physical strength and endurance, almost like 1 Corinthians 10:13, where it says, no temptation has seized you or no trial has seized you, but what is common to man, yet God is faithful and he will not let you be tested beyond what you can bear. And with the testing, he will provide a means of escape so that you may escape from it. No, so that you may endure it. But here David appeals to God's glory in the very last sentence. He says, show me a sign of your favor that those who hate me may see and be put to shame, because you, O Lord, have helped me and comforted me. He didn't want the pride for himself. He's not appealing upon that. He's saying, God, glorify yourself even in the midst of this, that these people pursuing me would be put to shame. Not because of me, but because of you. I think the payload there in that center section, unite my heart to fear your name, even deliver me for your name's sake, or give me strength to endure for your name's sake. Is that something that you can pray? Is that a promise that you can hold on to? Lord, for your name's sake. And whatever that means, if it means you snap your fingers and this ailment is gone, this physical condition has been remedied, this financial situation has been resolved, or if it's, no, there's a long haul here. This chronic disease or this difficult debt that I got into, or this difficult financial situation is going to take a lot of work, then Lord, give me the strength because I want to glorify you. That those who would see would not see me, that they would see you, that all the nations, including those around us, those near us, would come and worship at his throne. I hope that gives you hope in your circumstances, wherever you find yourself. I hope that you can rest and trust and ask God, would you unite my heart in this difficult situation to fear your name? Lord bless you and keep you.